Are you a football fan? Have you ever found yourself wondering, what in the world was that ref thinking? Well, Mike D, the referee, is here to help you. Join me on Whistle Talk as I talk to professionals on the field and in the booth to help you understand what is going on inside the mind of a football official. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Whistle Talk. Mike D, the referee, joining you here once again on this snowy Sunday afternoon. Snowmageddon, as I've been seeing all over social media. We're getting hit pretty hard here in the lovely state of New Jersey. Once again, being joined by my buddy Daniel Chamberlain. Daniel, how you doing, pal?
Oh, I am fantastic, Mike. Just like you, man. I think we're about 10 inches deep in snow. Apparently, there was a dry pocket, something cut half our snow out, but we'll do with 10 inches in the south. So,
Yeah, that is still a significant amount. We're still getting hit pretty hard here. It's supposed to switch over to some ice later on, and then possibly some more snow later. So fun stuff. So that's why I figured, hey, it's a good day to do a podcast because I'm
it is
stuck
a good day.
inside.
Yeah.
Before I have my guests introduce themselves, once again, if you're enjoying the show, do me a favor, hit those like and follow buttons. It's totally free. If it really helps people find the podcast, bring awareness to what we're doing. While you're at it, I'd love to hear a quick comment or anything like that. Give me a review, give me a thumbs up, give me a thumbs down, give me a middle finger. I've seen it all before. So it's all good. But I'd really appreciate it because the more banter we get going back and forth, the more it gets out there. You could also take a look at my YouTube page, youtube.com/ at Mike D the referee. So you can go there and see any episodes that you may have missed. Also find it on Spotify, Apple Music, all those other fun places. It's all over the place. And lastly, take a gander over to battlefieldstoballfields.org. If you are a veteran and you are looking to get involved in officiating, these people at battlefieldstoballfields.org are here to help. They do sponsorships, they do all different types of things to help get people on the ground, up and running into the wonderful sports officiating world of all sports, not just football. Daniel, give a plug of where they can find you at, please.
Yeah, you can find me at, I got a couple podcasts out there, the Football Coaching Podcast with Joe Daniel, and then Coaching 101 podcast I do with Kenny Simpson. Two shows that drop on Thursdays, similar but different. Each has their own little style, so jump over and do those. Also have a Patreon, patreon.com/Chamberlain Football Consulting. Jump over to Patreon if you're a coach in need of some training, some consulting, some mentorship. That Patreon site is the place for you. Dig through the tiers, find one you like. If there's none of them that seem to have what you want, just DM me on Twitter at Coach Chambo OK, and we can create or email me, but we can create a tier for you that's customized.
You got something going on up in Boston in a couple weeks?
We do. Joe Daniel and I will be in Boston March 13th and 14th. We're putting on a 425 defensive clinic, the very first Joe Daniel football clinic. So we're looking forward to having a good crowd, trying to get around 100 coaches there. We are currently in early bird pricing through, well, I guess really Valentine's Day, February 14th or 15th. You can get in at a discounted rate. We've also got some rooms available for discounted room on a group rate. So go over to joedanielfootball.com/425 Boston, and I'll take you to the sign up page. So come learn the ins and outs of the 425 defense.
All right. So we got some good stuff going on there. So today, kind of a little a different episode as I try to do now here in the off season. We're kind of deviating from our rules and stuff like that to a little bit more of the administrative aspect. So I'm lucky enough to have a pretty good panel here going on of three athletic directors from around the country. Joining us from all different areas. So we got Texas being representative, we got Iowa being represented, and we got here in New Jersey being being represented. Man, still early. My coffee hasn't kicked in yet. Sorry, gents.
It's the moon. We get it.
I'll get there. But yeah, so kind of deviating, and what I'd like to do today is kind of have a little roundtable discussion on just basically the role that the ADs have in us officiating, and the communication and the different thing that has to go on, and how the coaches and the ADs sometimes have to deal with our fantastic calls or not so fantastic calls from the coaching aspects and different things like that. So kind of dive in a little bit with that stuff. So, Andrew, I'm going to start off with you. Why don't you let the people know who you are, where you're coming from, and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, my name's Andrew Mitchell. I'm currently the assistant principal and the activities director at Atlantic Iowa High School. It's a small town, southwest Iowa. School, about 450 students in the high school, halfway between Omaha and Des Moines. This is just finished my 30th year. It's my 31st year. I've been in the AD for 20 years. Was a head football coach for 8 years and was the assistant football coach for 10 years before that. So kind of seen both sides of the equation here.
And so you've had to deal with us for a long time.
Yes. All good.
Always, always. I wish I could be honest with that one. Mr. Ryden, how are you doing, sir?
I am great. How are you, Mike?
Doing
My name's
fantastic.
Dave Ryden. I am the athletic director at Marlboro High School in New Jersey. We are, if you basically drew an X across the state, we are right in the center. I've been in education for 31 years now. Started off as a phys ed teacher, football coach. So I coached for from Pop Warner on up, and then 20 years ago made the transition to the dark side and went over to administration. And I've been the athletic director at Marlboro High School now for the past 20 years.
So it's kind of funny, Andrew. You're saying vice principal and athletic director, and Dave and I are in the same district. And for the people that have been watching the show, Dave was on the Jeopardy episode that I had about a year and a half ago. But Dave's the SECA, not just the athletic director. So he's the supervisor of extracurricular activities. So it's basically another vice principal in the school because he's kind of in charge of, well, everything.
Everything. I call it supervisor of every crappy assignment.
I know the feeling.
All right.
Yeah, but if it happens after 3 o'clock, it's basically get Dave.
And last but not least, Mr. Brandon Davis. How are you doing, sir?
Doing well. Appreciate you having me on. My name is Brandon
Absolutely.
Davis. I serve as the director of athletics at Allen Academy. I'm down in College Station. The school is in Bryan, Texas. I'm in College Station, Texas. So we're about halfway, kind of in the center between Waco, Houston, Austin, kind of that southeastern central Texas. So I've been here for I'm still in my first year here. I just moved from Louisville, Kentucky, where I served as the director of athletics for a couple different schools over there.
So Brandon is coming to us from Texas, as he just mentioned, but which is one of the reasons why I definitely wanted to have him on, because as we all know, when we're talking sports and we're talking football in particular, it's different in Texas. Period. End of story. Mic drop. But with Brandon himself too, it's also a little bit unique because Brandon, the style of football that's being played there, what is your school like with football?
Yeah, so we're a smaller school, so we play what's called six-man football, which is the closest I can put it is it's kind of like arena, where it's incredibly fast, very high scoring. The state championship at our level this year, the final score was like 105 to 96. So the biggest difference is we play on a little bit smaller field. It's only 80 yards long and 40 yards wide. But then everybody's eligible, every player. So you still see, pretty much everybody's in the pistol kind of thing. The other kind of weird rule is that the person that receives the snap cannot cross the line of scrimmage with the ball. So you see a lot of weird things where everything's shotgun pistol-ish. They'll snap it to the running back, who will then toss it to the quarterback. So if the quarterback wants to run, he can, but the person that receives the direct snap cannot cross the line of scrimmage with the ball. But yeah, it is really high scoring, really fast paced. But you'll see your typical 3 or 4 guys on the line of scrimmage, and we'll run a counter type of play. But then you'll see them spread it out, and we're running essentially 10 personnel with 3 wideouts, and the receiver or the running back will get the snap, almost like an option type thing to the quarterback, and then they're throwing a reverse field type of tunnel screen to the center. So yeah, oh yeah. This year I had 2 seniors. My running back was a senior, first team All-State, really really talented running back. My other senior was our center, and he was our leading receiver.
So that's very similar to the way we run our girls' flag football.
Yes, and we're going to be going in next year here in the state of New Jersey. We're going to be doing it as a varsity sport, but I know it's picked up across the country as a varsity sport.
For sure.
And NFHS has sanctioned it, and they now have a rule book out towards it. So for any of the listeners that are been dedicated and listening, take every rules episode and throw it out the window when you're talking about the 6-man game. On top of the fact, even if you're joining us from Texas, the Tasso officials that I've spoken with, it's 6-man football. From other officials that I've talked to that work those games, they say it is some of the hardest football to work because of the fact that the scores are, what was it, 105 to 96? Did you say?
Yeah, that was the state championship at our level. Yeah.
So it's a lot of moving and grooving there. So it's definitely something interested. I got to go on YouTube and I got to watch a game or two and just investigate it myself. But so we got 3 different areas. We got 3 different parts of the country, but you all have football officials that you have to deal with, and that's going to be kind of the main thing that we got going on here. So I want to kind of throw out a very general question, and we're going to start hard right away. What's the worst conflict you guys have had to deal with when it comes to officials? What is something that a fight, something that now it's over now the coaches' heads, and it now is falling on your laps from a game that happened on a Friday night due to a call that we've made as officials? So Dave, I'll start with you. I'll start with the local guy first.
So I'm trying to think of the worst one. I mean,
And it doesn't even
I'm
have to
gonna
be
say-
football.
Well, the worst one that I've had was when from an officiating standpoint, what just happened last year, and Mike knows the game that this happened with. But we were in overtime. We were tied 10-10, and we got the ball second. And the overtime rules in New Jersey is you start from the 25 and go in. The other team got the ball first. They went from the 25 and they scored a touchdown in 4 plays. We get the ball on the 25. It's 4th and 6, and my quarterback does a designed run. He gets to the 15-yard line, and the officials spot the ball at the 15. Then they measure it and told us that we didn't get the first down, and the game was over. So, I've always been taught that 25 minus 15 is 10. But they started arguing. I started not arguing with them, but I tried to get clarification. So I know my kids were stunned. My coaching staff was stunned. Now I'm going to have to deal with the aftermath of that after the officials leave, because they're not going to listen to any questions from the parents. That's all going to come on me. So I basically had to, get explanations from the officials, and every one of the officials had a different explanation. And I immediately called Mike. Because I've been friends with Mike. I coached football with Mike. I've been friends with Mike for over 20 years. My first phone call was to him, and I go, dude, what just happened? And he explained it to me, and
my explanation of it was, you're right. I think
I still don't understand what happened.
In the close to 10 years that I've been officiating, I think I've had a measurement on a turf field once. And when you start at the 25, you're going from a big line to a big line. So in that aspect, where the ball is spotted, if it's the nose is touching that big line, we're going first down. So I didn't have the answer that Dave was looking for, or more so, I kind of confirmed what Dave was saying, because they had a gripe. They had a good bone to pick there. So, I was sitting at a bar working, having a beer or two after the game that I just worked at a different spot. So I'm like, oh boy, this is never good when I get a call from Dave on Friday night. So,
and Mike knows I'm sometimes not the calmest person on the planet.
No comment.
As far as officiating wise, the hardest thing that I see from an administrator's perspective is sometimes the lack of communication. You know what I mean? My thing is always there's stuff lost in translation. If there's an issue on the field and we're not communicated the right way or the wrong way or what actually happened, that's where the breakdown is. And it's in every sport. I mean, I can't pinpoint an exact, worst case scenario because there's been a lot, but I've always found that if it was communicated the right way or communicated at all, the problem is alleviated, and I can have an explanation, whether I agree with it or not. I at least have an explanation, and that's always the big thing. I mean, you also got to remember, in our level, we're dealing with 15, 16, and 17-year-old kids. They're kids. So I can deal with the parents. That's not a problem. But it's hard to look a kid in the eye and go, "You're right. That was 10 yards. I don't know what to tell you." So, but that's my thing. Communications is everything.
So, Andrew, I'm going to kind of pivot and kind of piggyback off of what Dave was talking about with the communication aspect. How does it work communication-wise with you and the officials before the game even starts? What communication are you guys doing before the game even starts to open up that line of communication?
It all starts, before they even arrive to the field. We do our itinerary for the night that I share with the visiting team and our coaches, although my coach helped design it, so I share it with them again, but just a reminder and whatnot, and make sure I get my officials' names from the assigners, and then I share that with them, so they have an idea when they come in what's going on that night. Usually, nothing extravagant changes. We might have a little extra longer halftime, but when they arrive, I always try to be the one who greets them when they get to the parking lot. That I show them to their locker room, get them to sign their payment vouchers, get them their field mic, whatever, just to, if they have any questions. Fortunately for us in Southwest Iowa, maybe unfortunately, I guess, is we have very few officiating crews. So we say the same crews every year. So these guys now that I've been in Atlantic for, this is my past season was my 8th year here, we know each other. There's not a lot of changes. And you have a different, maybe one guy moves up to the crew chief, whatnot, but there's not a huge changeover. So the communication doesn't have to be in depth for the most part, because we know they know what to expect when they come to Atlantic. But I still greet them. We talk. They ask for anything special going on. We go over those type of things. They ask, they want to bring our clock operator and our play clock operator down to discuss in the game. But otherwise, they know I pretty much let them to their jobs, and we don't get. I try not to get too involved with what they do, except to make sure they have what they need.
How far in
Andrew,
advance
do you
get-
hire a play clock operator?
It's one of our worker positions
Okay.
that we have. We try to get 3 up in our booth to do that. One to run the scoreboard, one to run the clock, one to run the play clock. But if we get, or 1 clock, 1 scoreboard, 1 spotter to help them out as well that way. But we've got some guys who typically have done it now for us most of the 8 years I've been here, and I don't really have to. It's just like riding a bike. Just tell them the dates, and I just stay out of their way.
Right. Yeah, because I usually have 10 officials come to a game, six field officials, 1 clock operator, and then 3 chain crew. I feel very uncomfortable on a varsity game to have a chain crew that is a staff member of mine on the visiting team's sideline. I'd rather
we have dads, we have staff members as chain gang. We don't actually hire an official crew for that.
Yeah, I do that for the sub varsities, but for varsity games, I'd rather have everyone non-partial.
Yeah.
As
We-
non-partial as you can be.
We wouldn't have enough people around to do that.
I think there's definitely a benefit to that. It seems like the bylaws from area to area, as Mike and I have gotten to know each other and talk through, there's definitely you could probably share those across the state, right? There's different aspects of why would you not put an official on the clock? Like, you think about the last 10 seconds of a game and the game's on the line, and like the dad just forgot to hit the button, or his son's at quarterback and he's very stingy with the time. Now the clock doesn't start for 3 seconds. Or, like, it's just
Yeah.
And,
I
and we
actually
have
did the
had
clock
that.
yesterday at my basketball game, and I got accused of doing that at my home game.
Yeah, and we have had issues with officials on the clock where we're winding it and it's not being wound, and the coaches are all over us. So even the officials sometimes make the mistake, but at least they can pin it on us and not on any home field bias or anything like that. So, and it's something that we can kind of communicate. We have our O to O's with the people up in the press box, but yeah, it does kind of take a little bit of that from the visitor standpoint of going into another place, especially those rivalry games of the home cooking going on.
Well, the home
I
crowd can
love
get mad at the
fact that
refs
you guys
instead
are
of
in
at one of their own.
communication. I love the fact that you guys have the Odo the communication on. I think that's one of the greatest things you guys did.
Yeah. And I think that's pretty much nationwide now with the Odo systems going on. I don't know many states of people that I've talked to that aren't using some form of the Odo. Now, actually, Andrew, I'll go back to you with this one. Is somebody in the booth have an O? Are they able to verbally communicate on the field?
To me,
To you?
yeah, just to me, and we've had to improvise. We used to, if the official needs to communicate to the booth, they can come to me. I've had to revert back to cell phones because we've noticed that our radios interfere with the sound system, and we haven't figured out how to solve that one yet. So I just call up to the booth on my cell phone, or they'll go to our head coach, who will use the headset to talk to the assistant who's up in the press box, and he'll yell down the backside of the press box.
Climb down the stairs and say, "Put 3 seconds back on the clock."
They're all in one little box, so it's not too big a deal. But yeah, that's just our simple way. They don't.
When I was coaching football, that was my job. I was one of the guys on top of the box. So they would always radio to me, and then I had to stick my head down through the hole in the roof.
Yep.
Hey, add 5 seconds, reset the play clock, whatever. Yeah, that was my job. Because
But
I was the
we
young,
do have-
nimble one.
That's one thing we do have when now I guess I should say the last couple of years when we redid our field, the referees have a mic, so they can also talk to the press box just through the PA system as well.
That was something that we implemented this year. Was before it was just kind of get word up there. You talk to one of the coaches or whatever it is, because ours is all in press box as well. But while cleaning some things out, I found a set of 10 walkie-talkies. So we put a system in, and everybody's got their own. So pregame, same thing. I go up and introduce myself to the officials. We show them where their locker rooms are and all that kind of stuff. And I normally, once they come back out in the field, they always go over and talk to the coaches, whatever. I'll go over and I'll bring my athletic trainer with me, because the athletic trainer has a walkie-talkie. So if you need to get a hold of me and I'm not standing there, or if you need to get a hold of the press box to add time because there's a walkie-talkie in the press box, find the trainer. This is the guy. He's going to, at least whoever you need, he can get in contact with them as soon as possible.
So that kind of brings me to a next question. Like I mentioned before, you all wear very many hats. Dave in particular right now is the only one wearing a hat. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Daniel's got his hat on too. Friday nights are typically standalone games. You guys are also dealing with parents, dealing with the crowds, dealing with the teenage kids and stuff like that. So how much of the games are you truly invested in? And what's the protocol now if we as officials need to get in touch with you because there's something going on, there's a technical difficulty, whatever it may be? Are you always readily available, or is there times where you're in the building dealing with 2 high school kids that just got into a fight or something like that?
We have it set up where I have generally on game days, I have 2 admin that are with me. Generally one from the school side, whether it's an assistant principal or something like that. Unfortunately for football, I don't get my associate AD because he's the football coach. But we have another admin that normally helps us out. She's a teacher, women's basketball coach. She's been around for a while. She understands kind of what's going on. So I generally try to let them enjoy the games, but they also have walkie-talkies. So should something come up, or I'm dealing with a situation that I'm pulled away to take care of a more important situation, I can very easily call, whether it's one of our APs or a principal. We also have being in Texas and being an independent school, we can kind of make our own rules as far as safety goes. So like we employ our own armed campus security guard. And he's there for all the games. So if I need to call Officer Corey, I call Officer Corey. But one thing we did change this year is generally I would just walk around and I had like my walkie-talkie kind of like pinned on my shirt. And we had a situation, I was standing there casually talking to some parents, and we had a situation come up that not everybody needed to hear what was being said. So all the admins, we've now made the change that we have the earwigs so we can hear what's going on for everybody, and not everybody around us needs to hear sometimes some sensitive information about what's going on. So
And that's actually a great point, because talking about, Dave mentioned the communication that we have with the people in the booth. When I'm a white hat, when I'm the crew chief for that particular game, I'm typically an umpire, but I am also certified as a crew chief. I like the booth guys to have the earpiece in, because there's banter going back and forth on the radios with officials that the people in the press box don't need to hear. It's the person that we need to communicate with needs to hear. So I mean, there's times where we're discussing a call. We'll open up our mic so that we can have an official over by the sideline to kind of communicate what our conversation might be in the middle of the field, to let the coaches know what we're talking about. And you see it on the college games and the NFL games where there's somebody kind of talking with the coaches, but we sometimes argue. We sometimes go back and forth with each other to make sure that we're going to get the call right. So we have some communication. And now if it's an open mic upstairs in the press box, and now you got the coaches from each team sitting there listening, these guys don't know what the heck they're doing. Oh, we got the Mickey Mouse crew or whatever it may be. It's just,
Mike, no one would ever challenge the knowledge of their in-game referee ever.
Thank you, Daniel. I appreciate that.
Look, I've got your back, buddy.
25 minus 15 is 10. Just leave that
Still
there.
not challenging.
So can I respond a little bit to what we're talking about, because this is one of my favorite parts of the game, because I was a former football coach and I try to watch the game as much as possible. So the way I have it set up at Marlboro is I'm in charge of the game. I'm in charge of the on-field stuff. So I make a very big point to communicate with the white hat. I do the same thing Andrew does. I greet them. I've already had pre-communication with the white hats here. The one thing about the football association, the officials association here, is that our white hat is our go-to person. So they'll confirm the game with my secretary before the game starts, like 3 to 4 days prior. So then I call them and I have a dialogue with them. I've also been around, the Shore Conference for 22 years, so I pretty much know a lot of the officials that are out there.
yeah.
And I make it a point to do that because I treat the officials and the visiting team like they're coming over to my house. And I wouldn't just let someone walk into my house without saying hi. So I don't do that with them. They're there to work my game, so I'm going to try to help them out. So I'll bring them to their locker room. I have one specific former football coach that's a teacher now in my building. He's in charge of bringing them to the field. He's in charge of bringing them back to the locker room at halftime and after the game. So he's like their security. But I have one principal, 3 assistant principals, and then me at every home game. So my job is to watch the game and do all the in-game stuff. The principal and the assistant principals are in charge of the crowd. And then we have in the Shore Conference that you have to have a visiting administrator there as well. So again, like when the visiting team administrator comes in there, that's usually the other AD. I know them, so I'll banter back and forth with them. Then they'll go to their sideline. I give them a walkie-talkie as well. So I have my own athletic walkie-talkies that, me, my athletic trainer, and then I give that to the other AD from the other school. So if they have any issues, they could call me on the radio. But again, I'm a big communication guy. So that's the solving any issues, for me, I'm all in game. My assistant principals are all out of the game. And then I have a financial manager that runs the money. So as soon as they stop selling, they close down the gate. I don't see any of it. The people selling tickets and my financial manager, they walk into the school, they take care of the money, and then they lock it up in the safe that's in my office, and they deal with it on Monday.
So
I very much like my system the way I have it, because, and I always tell the officials, I am standing here. I know where I like to watch the game from. So I'll always tell them I'm always behind my offensive line. So I'll follow the game, but I'll always be behind my offensive line. That's how I like to watch the game.
So you're like me then, Dave. You've never seen a holding penalty on your team.
Ever. We don't hold. Come on.
No. Now, the one thing I do, and this past season was the first time that I got to work a game at Marlboro on the varsity level. Due to my connections with Dave, I've been out of that building for a number of years now, so I'm allowed to go back there. From where and I'm going to use air quotes, the officials' locker room to the field is maybe 50 yards, if that.
Yeah.
So it's a very short walk. Daniel, how is it in schools that you've worked at where they put the officials as opposed to where the field is? And I got to say, that's probably the non-in-game stuff. The biggest concern that we have as officials is how we're getting back and forth because, again, somebody's going to be unhappy at the end of the day with us, one way or the other. Even the greatest officiated games and a tight, close game, there's always somebody that doesn't like what we've called or didn't call. And it's getting back to the locker room, back to our cars or things like that. Daniel, how are things set up with places that you've coached?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like everyone down here has an old locker room that's right beside the stadium, and that's generally where we put them up. I've seen them in, like, we've had to give up a coach's office at one place just because it was the additional space. But you're right, Mike. It's get them a very short walk. Get them out of the stadium, and because we know that can happen, we want there to be really good terms on when the crew leaves. But I also like, you've done your job, go away, right? As soon as you hold up that last ball, like, appreciate you guys, have a great night. We don't need you to stand around and hang out on the field with us or whatever. So, yeah, usually a really short walk. Their cars are generally reserves, spots so they can park really close and then get out of town.
Yeah, we're the same way.
Same.
Yeah, we have. So we actually put them in the maintenance building that's right next to the football field. So it's a really, really short walk. I'm talking, it may be 50 feet.
Okay.
Now the downside is they got to walk right past the home crowd. So we've all been there. We can tell when there's some tension. So there were a couple games where this year that I was standing at the bottom of the stairs coming out of the bleachers because that's right where the officials walk, and I just kind of stopped, let them go, and I walked with them to their building. But I do the same thing as Dave, where or it's the same kind of setup where our crew chief will reach out 2-3 days before, confirm everything. I also include through Arbiter, obviously we have their contact information. I include the crew chief on all of our game confirmations. So, early in the week, we send out the email to our opponents and the officials, and it's got, for the opponents, it's here's the visitor's guide. We've got like a 3-page visitor's guide, all the information they could possibly need, everything from restaurants to here's the nearest pharmacy, walk-in clinic, level 1 trauma center, all those different kinds of things, different parking zones where the buses are to park. But on that email or on that visitor's guide, on the map, we show them exactly where their building is going to be. And we have reserved parking spots with signs that say officials parking only. You could set my watch by it on Wednesdays at noon. I send the email to the teachers. You've got to be out of those parking spots by 3:00 on Friday. So it's short, and they're right next to their car, and there's a gate. I mean, if you're that first spot, it might be 15 feet from the door to your car. But yeah, the only tricky thing for us is getting them past the bleachers.
So we've had some different scenarios here where we've showed up at fields and have had no contact with anybody, no responses sometimes from emails or calls, showed up at the field not having an idea of where to go. And then post game, this was the scariest one. I worked the game. It ended up being a blowout. And to give you an idea of how this game was running, I threw 3 flags on the punt team because their up back cut a rusher on 3 separate punts. 2 on the same punt because after we walked him back 15 yards, the kid did it again. He's 7 yards back, free runner comes through, and boom, he upends him. And the coach is yelling at me like, "What are you calling?" I'm like, "Coach, that is the easiest call in the world for us." At the end of the game, we were going to our cars. And a gentleman's like, "Hey, Mr. Official," said it very politely. My umpire at the time, I was a sideline official. I was a wing. He goes over. I go with him. And his answer, or he follows it up with, "If you MFers ever work another one of our games, you're going to get a bullet in your head." And we're like, okay, nice to see you. Have a nice night. And got in the
That's
car.
okay.
Well, the problem is at the time we reported this to our assigner. He assigned us to teams again at their place. And we're like, what are you doing? Like, why would you do this to us? Why would you put us in this situation? So we requested not to work that school again. I'm going to throw this question out to all four of you. Have you guys ever requested not to have an officials back at your school? And how does that work with the assigners in that aspect? And you're all shaking your head yes.
So for most sports, we actually get blacklists, both here in Texas and when I was in Kentucky as well. It was different from sport to sport for how many you got. But generally for football, it was a crew. And for all the other sports, you got 2. So at the beginning of the year, they would say, okay, who's your blacklist? And we would go in and say, all right, I don't want Tommy Smith and, Joe whatever. And they would not be on your officials. Now, we all knew that when you blacklist somebody, you don't get them for any regular season games. And if you're playing in tournament, you won't get them for the first round game. But after that, it's like they're assigned to game 7. Whoever's in game 7, they get. Mm-hmm. But yeah, actually, my first year as an administrator, we had an issue. The school I was at, I was the assistant AD and the women's lacrosse coach, and they didn't ask us to blacklist at the beginning of the year. They asked us to blacklist for the playoffs. And there was one gentleman that I did not think needed to be doing playoff games. So I blacklisted him, but the assigner didn't tell him, they assigned the playoffs. We made it to the state championship, and then they had to pull this guy off the state championship. And then he found out it was me that blacklisted him. That was one of the most tense conversations I've had in sports history.
Yeah.
Because he was at the game. So he confronted me asking why I blacklisted him. So that was fun.
So
Andrew, what were you about to say?
We used to do that. We used to blacklist, and we switched it to give your top 10.
So you want the positives.
We do it a positive way. So give us your top 10 so we don't run into that situation. But what we need to do is we need to do like a conflict of interest. So for Mike has always been on my conflict of interest just because he works in the Freehold Regional District.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it's not a bad thing because Mike also knows, because he worked at Marlboro and as is part of our district, that he won't do a varsity game against the school he works at now.
Yeah.
Now he's been so far removed that I actually want Mike there because Mike's crew is one of the best crews in the state. So, that's kind of, we do that. So we did it. We got rid of doing the blacklist and do a positive.
Right.
See,
Yeah,
in
we don't
Kentucky,
have
we did that for playoff rankings.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we would, at mid-season, they would ask us for I think they did top 25 and bottom 10, and that's how they assigned state playoffs.
Gotcha. Andrew.
we don't have an official blacklist. I've never done anything with football crews. There's a basketball official that we've asked not to do our games, and I explained to the signer why, and we've had no issues with that. But in Iowa, when I was I started out in Illinois, was an AD admin over there, and we had to rank every time we had a football crew, a basketball crew. And I was also the head football coach at the time. I had to rank my officials, give them a scale 1 to 5. And in Iowa, they do it differently. They do it like New Jersey now, is they ask, all right, which crews would you recommend to work postseason? And you have to give a minimum of so many. With football, you just do the crew chief, and understanding they come with the crew.
Yep.
All of the sports, it's individual officials. And then depending on the sport, that's how many fish, like swimming, I have to recommend 2, basketball, I have to recommend 4, and so on and so forth.
Mike, give me 1 second. I'll be right back.
Yes, sir. So want to kind of go into now what you guys do either preseason or pregame with your coaches, and Daniel, if you've ever been addressed by your athletic director as a coach, do you guys do anything with, okay, going into the season, this is how we're going to treat the officials, or, hey, we've got this crew coming in, they tend to, they're notorious for throwing holding penalties or whatever it may be. How do you guys communicate with your coaches about the officiating and your expectations with how they communicate with the officials? So Daniel, as a coach, have you been addressed by your admin about stuff like that?
We had a really weird scenario, which is probably a conflict of interest, and luckily it was a sub-varsity game where the head coach was like, I'm sorry, the head official was related to like our superintendent somehow, or something. It might have even been like her husband. I don't know. It was a very strange thing. I can't even remember all the details, but essentially, luckily at that time, the AD wasn't talking to me, but the head coach was like, listen, me and this guy have a history. We're just not going to address him. No one will speak to him but me. That way I can ensure nothing is misinterpreted. And it ended up being like we held the game for 45 minutes waiting on because it became a thing between those two. But we knew ahead of time, like, this is pretty volatile. And so I've had that. Outside of that, not really. I mean, we talk about standards pretty early in the season, and as a staff, we know you don't speak to the official. That is the head coach's job, or if he assigns someone to do that for him. Very few times has the athletic director had to get involved. I'm sure they're having those head coach meetings with the AD, and he's like, hey, stop treating the officials like crap because we're running out of them. But I've not been a part of that.
And Andrew, how about you? How do you go about communicating with your coaches? And again, not just football, but just in general with dealing with officials.
Once I know the officials, usually the coach will, not all coaches, but some of the coaches will say, who's our crew this week or whatnot, or coming up. And like, since they all know each other, and we'll have some crews 2, maybe even 3 times in a season, because we'll see them on the road at different places. And it's more so if our coach wants to know, just so they, like you said, this is a crew that calls a lot of holding. This is the crew where I can feel comfortable talking to the white hat or the line judge. This is the crew I have to be careful, mind my P's and Q's when they're around, so on and so forth. And that's the main thing we do. It's kind of unwritten rule that it's our head coach that talks, not the assistant coaches. And I don't have to say anything to our assistant coaches because our head coaches will turn around and tell the assistant coach, hey, that's my job. You knock it off if they get too far out of line with things. So otherwise, we sit down at the end of the year. And when I've had coaches head coaches who have struggled and how they communicate with officials, we've talked about different ways to go about that, so on and so forth. But I try to let them be humans, and hopefully you're treat each other the right way. So,
gotcha. Brandon, how about you?
We do. Don't get me wrong. We have our conversations with our coaches in preseason meetings and things like that. But we come at it from a different direction of not this is what we don't want you saying to the officials. We phrase it more as a top-down kind of mentality. With hey, if you're constantly talking or yelling at the officials, your kids, your parents, all those different communities are going to think that's socially acceptable. So we just kind of come from the mindset of if you've got a question, ask it. If you need clarification, ask for it. But other than that, ignore it, go to the next play. Otherwise, you're going to see everybody asking for calls or, getting confrontational or whatever it is. And I'm lucky enough at the school I'm now, I've got a bunch of younger coaches that have really bought into that. So like we had a basketball game on Friday night against our rival, really close game. Luckily we pulled it out 54-51. But there were some in the fourth quarter when they were having a comeback, there was some not so wonderful calls, including a very badly missed call that they called a jump ball when it's not a jump ball. Mm-hmm. And our coach immediately, the kids get up and they're confused and they're looking at the officials, and he was like, nope, come on, next play, let's go. And then he was able to refocus them, and we ended up pulling out the win. So that was now an example that I will point to many, many times in the future, saying, look how we handled this, look how well it went, let's continue down that path versus pointing fingers. I'm also a little sensitive to it. When I was in lacrosse, I had somebody recommend, I was always a rules guy, I knew the rules, but they recommended that I just learn how to officiate. And that was one of the best things that I did for my coaching career, because it made me realize when I could and when I should not talk.
So Daniel, he weaponized it.
Yeah, that's my
Daniel
theme
always
routine
says.
with Mike D is I'm going to weaponize the rule book in football, and we have, so it's great.
So it's amazing to me though, because I myself as an official, but I'm also an educator. I'm a teacher, and all of the games that I'm working are on schools, and the coaches are coaching high school athletes, even the youth. And there's times where somebody is getting on us, and I'm like, Coach, you're modeling what these kids are doing. So they're seeing you all over us. I'll talk to you. I'll have a conversation with you, but you're the role model. So guess what happens when now I'm in the middle of the field? These kids think that that's what they're supposed to do, and that's not helping anybody. So let's educate the kids. Let's educate each other. I'm going to do my best. And as Dave mentioned, we like to do a lot of preventative officiating. We communicate as a crew with our sidelines, with our players. Like I'm an open mic to the kids. They're asking me questions. I'm not going to ignore them. I'm not going to blow them off. But that's my education background, I think. And I kind of try to bring that to my crew. Now, my crew has a couple of people in education, so they all understand it. I'm working with high school age kids all day long, let alone that I come Friday night and I'm dealing with them. And I've coached, so I know how intense it is. I know the amount of time that has been dedicated to this Friday night game and that they want to be there. So I'm going to do my best to give them the best game. But there's times where, like, guys, like, this isn't helping anybody. And I've said it to my crew. I've said it to guys on my crew who might start yelling back at a kid. Like, no, you don't. We don't do that. We have to model what we're expecting them to do as officials, as adults, as most of us are fathers, as fathers. Like, this is, it's a bigger picture. Yes, the Friday night is the small picture, but it's the bigger picture in my mind of what we like to do. Now, I'm a gym teacher. I'm not going to lie. So my molding of the minds is a little bit less than my wife. She is an English teacher. She's got a little bit more of the educational impact on them. But I'm still teaching them about life and how to treat people and how sport can help them out and different things like that. So I'm trying to carry that over onto the field as well. So it's just something that I like to do.
I always use the line in my preseason coaches meeting from A Few Good Men. You know, you get it on record once, and then you let it go. If you keep going and going and going, well, eventually the official's gonna get upset. I mean, I tell them, think about if I start yelling at you, if I start reprimanding you constantly, eventually you're gonna be zoned out to it. You know, so I tell them, if you want to talk to the official, great. Don't harp on it. You know, but football officials are usually really good. We have other sports where the officials have actually been told not to talk to the coaches anymore. So, like, you'll have a call that happens 70 yards away from you, and you're trying to figure out. My coach will be like, "Can you tell me what happened?" And they're like, "We're not arguing about it, coach." And we're like, "I'm not arguing. I want to know what my kid did, so when I talk to him, I can coach him and tell him what he did wrong." And we've had issues like that. But, you know, I tell my coaches all the time, I have never in my 40 years of being involved with athletics had an official go, "Hey, coach, you know what? You're right. We're going to overturn that call."
Hey, weirdly enough, I have to put this in. We did see one this year in a state championship game. A kid they were on like the 1 yard line. Quarterback rolled out of the pocket, threw a pass. It was incomplete. The refs called safety for an intentional grounding. And it basically the coach was like, this is what he said. He didn't say, "Tell me what happened." He said, "Tell me the rule." That's how the coach approached it. "Hey, Mr. Umpire, tell me the rule." And he said the rule, and he said, "Great. Now what you just said was, if he leaves the tackle box," my kid rolled out from one hash, and he's standing on the other side of the logo over there in the end zone. And they went, "Oh, you're right." And they called it back, and they got to get the punt or whatever. It was like a third down. So I have seen one, but that doesn't. And he didn't argue, right? Especially as soon as you argue, you've lost the battle.
Oh yeah, it's
It's never going to happen.
Yep.
I think that was the coolest way I've seen that is just tell me the rule. That's all I need to know.
right.
The only time I've ever seen it reversed was the exact same thing. It was when I was coaching lacrosse, and one official called one thing and one called the other, and one called the foul. One's foul caused the other. So I was like, you can't call the foul on my kid if the foul they called caused this. They're like, "Oh, no, coach, you're right. Okay, goal counts."
So with my crew, and we talk about it pregame. We have our pregame conference just as a crew, and we always say we're putting our egos aside. So there's times where I've thrown a flag, and we've conferenced together, and my wing's like, "No, Mike, I had this," and I'm like, "All right, pick it up." And our head referee, our crew chief, will pick it up, and he'll give a little wave of the flag, and we'll go on from there because we're a crew, and we kind of try to pride ourselves on it that, hey, okay, I had this, but you had a better angle than I did, so tell me I'm wrong. We'll wave it off because we want to give the best for the kids.
And that's why Mike's crew gets the best ranking from me.
Thank
Because
you.
I've seen it all. I mean, I've literally seen it all from the coaching perspective, from the AD perspective, from the player perspective, and the fact that his crew constantly talks and will do stuff like that. It's if I had Mike's crew all the time, I'd be happy.
No, you wouldn't.
No, I wouldn't have.
So one last question I'm going to throw out to all four of you, and then we'll kind of wrap this one up. But does your officials association do anything with your conference, with your schools? Do they come in preseason wise and talk with you? Like how is it? Is there some type of precedence that's set early in the season or preseason with, okay, this is what kind of rule changes we may have, this is what you can expect from us? Do you guys do stuff like that?
So most of our sports will have scrimmages. And I know in Illinois at the time I was there, we weren't allowed to scrimmage against other schools. Iowa, you can, and so we'll bring in officials, usually a local crew. At that point, it's a good time to have a local crew come in. But there's oftentimes they will sit down with the teams before or after and say, all right, and I ask them to do this, or the coach will, what are the new rules for this year? You know, the new interpretations or the points of emphasis, just to kind of get them that wasn't really enforced last year too hard. And, you know, like the big push had been the last couple of years in Iowa and have to wear the knee pads, or the knee pads have to cover the knee. And
That's everywhere, I think, sir. That's a good.
Yeah.
Lord.
Yep,
we
same here.
get pushed. We get letters from the state. Hey, you got to enforce this. Got to enforce this. And then I watch our state championship games, and nobody's enforcing it. I'm like, get rid of the damn rule then.
Yeah, I don't think we have knee pads anymore.
Yeah. So,
So
but
bad.
just example. So that's how we typically handle it. There's nothing coming down from a state officials association. It's just what we arrange on our own.
Yeah. So we have
Yeah,
we do a preseason media day with I'm in charge of my conference's football committee. So I have the pleasure of, you know, developing divisions and developing schedules, and I do a lot of work with the entire state of New Jersey on football. So what we do in the Shore is we have a big media day at the beginning of the right as the scrimmage season starts, and we'll have the football coach is required to be there, and then we tell them they are allowed to bring two their players, and we run it like a regular media day. So we have our short conference backdrop. The kids come in, they put their helmets down on the table, and then all of the newspapers are there. But what we do for that is we usually have one white hat come in that's a top white hat in the Shore, and they'll talk to all the coaches prior about the points of emphasis, what they're looking for, any rule changes and stuff like that. And then we open up to Q&A back and forth, so the coaches can hear from a white hat directly of what they're going to be looking for. And again, we started that a couple years ago, and then, you know, it's open communication, so it's they know what's going on, you know, from the officials to the players to the coaches, and they get to the Q&A is just huge, and it's alleviated a lot of issues.
And Brandon, how about you guys?
We get the email. We don't get it from the officials. We get it from our sports governing body. We play in TAPS, the Texas Association of Private and Parochial Schools. So they'll send out, you know, rule changes, points of emphasis, things like that. The only time I've gotten in my relatively short time here at Allen, we got anything from the officials on that level was we had some clarifications from soccer. You know, hey, we're gonna, you know, this is what we sent to the officials. We're not going to start a game unless the goals are way down, or, you know, we are actually going to be checking shin guards to make sure kids aren't wearing micro guards. But one of the things that we do is, I'm 100% biased, but I'm still going to say it. I think we have one of the nicest facilities in the area for six-man football around. So we host a scrimmage day in week -0 because it's weird here in TAPS where week 0 you can scrimmage or play a regular season game if you want an extra one. That's new this year.
Yeah, we have that.
But do you?
Yeah.
Week -1, we host a group scrimmage similar to what you would see in a basketball or volleyball setting. Where we'll bring in, I think last year we had 11 teams. We're generally in that 8 to 12, and we'll come in and you essentially get. We put 15 minutes up on the scoreboard, and it's just your one team's offense gets 15 minutes, then you're on defense for 15 minutes, and then you switch, and you're playing all these different teams. But before we start, all the coaching staffs come in early before the first game, and the officials talk to them, and there's their Q&A session. So, but that's something we do, not what Tasso does or what TAPS does or anything like that.
Gotcha.
I will add to ours that our state associations, we have 2 associations, one boys and one's girls, and every sport does have a rules meeting video that all the head coaches have to watch. All the officials have to watch too. So that also covers some of our stuff.
Yeah, we have one of those as well.
Yeah.
Daniel, how about you guys? Do you guys do anything with the officials preseason wise?
I mean, kind of what you guys were talking about. A lot of 7-on-7's gotten pretty big, and it seems like we're bringing those ref crews out to give them some monies and a way to, I think, keep them around the sport. Excuse me. So that's a place to start, and then the scrimmages for the big schools. It seems like they're always involved there. Well, I guess all of them. We go to our team camps in the fall. We have refs that are out there getting reps. We don't generally do a sit down with them, which is something we may need to add to our docket. Is like show up for team camp, but show up 30 minutes early, and the refs are like I love the going over the points of emphasis for the year. So that way, it's not just my voice my star quarterback hears when I tell him pull his freaking knee pads down, right? He's not Tate Bike Short Sandell out there kicking 60-yard bombs. He's in high school. So
Yeah, Daniel's a big Oklahoma Sooner fan, so the bike short kicker that they had this past
we're
year.
back to let's go. We get short shorts again next year. Daisy Dukes.
Come on, I miss bike shorts. Those things were great.
They were. People don't even know what I'm referencing anymore. The youth are like, what is bike shorts?
Yeah.
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 Oh yeah.
We're all showing our age.
Yep.
Well, gentlemen, I truly appreciate you guys all taking the time out today. Hopefully this was beneficial for you guys as well. Once again, appreciate it. And if there's anything that I can do in the future, please feel free to reach out to me. I know, Brandon, the rules are a little bit different down in Texas because you guys are Tasso and kind of a little bit more NCAA rules wise. But if there's anything that I can do to help you guys out in the future, let me know. I've got enough connections with the NCAA guys now that I could reach out and find a clarification for you or something like that. But I appreciate you guys, and hopefully this coming season, and hopefully you guys aren't having to deal with any type of official stuff. Andrew, I apologize with the shortage of you guys always getting the same officials, because I'm not going to lie, I like not seeing the same schools 2 to 3 times a year, because it becomes a burden, because then they know us and they know my mustache, as Daniel likes to point out. My
Good mustache.
the kids know the mustache, so when I'm in the middle field, they're like, oh, we got this guy again, or oh, hey, we got this guy again. It goes both ways. But guys, thank you very much, and hopefully everyone's safe this weekend, and have an awesome rest of the school year this year, and looking forward to football again come August.
And Mike, take tomorrow off. We just got the call.
Yes, I heard. I got the text message.
Let's go keep going on.
Thanks for having us, Mike.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely.